What is up, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube? That's right. I'm Chris Smith, and today I'm talking about the Shannara Chronicles episode 4 of the first season. I'm going to be reviewing it. Let's talk about this thing right here, right now. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much. I'm not going to really spoil really much of anything to really ruin the show. I'm going to respect people that haven't seen it, so let's talk about this right here. The plot of this basic episode is pretty much about Amber Bell. She eventually gets out of the tree. She retrieves the seed from the tree, and she has to deliver it. But eventually her quest to deliver it kind of gets delayed because the Rovers eventually send Anatreya to steal the seeds, not the seeds, the stones from Will. And that is our basic thing. And not only that, but there apparently is something going on inside of the palace. Now this episode is pretty much takes place all in the palace. You know, it's all very well confined for the most part, you know, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine because sometimes when you have people confined, you know, it adds a bit of attention to a certain situation, and there's a situation here that adds a bit of attention to it, and, you know, that's what well-confined stories really do well. Now, also, some things that I really did like about this episode is that, you know, at the very beginning, right, there's this scene where she is in, and it's not really a spoiler, but there's this scene where she is in the tree, and it's kind of a bit of a test of sorts. And the test kind of showed that, you know, in a very symbolic way, where it showed that, you know, she cannot let anything get in her way. She can't let love. It showed will. It can't let guilt. Her old boyfriend's death kind of affect her thing. And for that, I was just like, okay, I kind of like this. This episode was a bit darker, I guess you could say, for the most part, compared to the other three. But, you know, it wasn't too violent, obviously, because it's MTV. But, you know, I thought that was a very interesting scene that we kind of kicked it off with. But yeah, also some things, when Anatreya does eventually kind of invade the palace and she's going for Will and whatnot, you know, she and Will have very great chemistry, and I like their chemistry for the most part. To me personally, Will and Amberly, they don't really have that great of chemistry. I don't really see it. That seems like more of a brother and sister thing to me personally, but that's just my opinion. You know, him and Anatreya, they have chemistry. Brother and sister chemistry for him and Amberly. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Will is still Will for the most part, but yeah. Also, some things in here we got to see a bit more of the demon side of things, and I like that because you know, with every great hero, we need a great villain. If we don't have any villain backstory, then we're not really going to get much. So seeing the Changeling, you know, which is a shapeshifter, I was just like, okay, we're adding to the mythos. It's good. But we still need to kind of see a bit more of the demon side of things, and I would have liked to prefer to see that. But, you know, whatever. I hope maybe they'll explain on that later on. Also, another good thing that really happened in this episode, you know, they have the backtracking, kind of where they kind of went back to the palace, and then they have to go right back out on another quest. I was like, okay, the backtracking kind of seems like an RPG where they're kind of going back and forth, and I was like, okay, I can dig that and whatnot. So sure, that's awesome. Like I said, you know, I really enjoyed this episode because it wasn't fun, but for the most part, it did kind of feel like a little bit of a filler because I feel like not much really happened that much. Some negatives that I didn't really like too much in this episode, or some things I didn't like in this episode. I think we need more diversity. One, because I feel like it's only one black person. I guess you count the king, but it's only one black person specifically. Also, the Game of Thrones reference where the king says, you know nothing of magic. I thought of Game of Thrones for some reason. That was just me personally. His son, the king's son, he's starting to get whiny. Also, what is really the difference between the elves and the humans? Because I feel specifically, other than pointy ears, they don't really make a distinct difference between them. Maybe they do in the books, but in the show, they don't really do a good job at it, unfortunately. Eventually, you know, Anatreya eventually does evade, you know, the palace and whatnot. She does steal the stones, and I was just like, you know, also for Will, you know, Will was really desperate to kind of get laid in these past 4 episodes, so much that, you know, the stones were not the only thing, you know, Will had blue. That, as far as I'm concerned, you know, because he kept getting turned down. I was just like, Jesus, pal. But yeah, you know, what is the distinct difference between the humans and the elves? Because I feel like they don't really do a good job at explaining that, really, in my opinion. But yes, this episode had a lot of tension, you know, because they're kind of finding the demon, because there's a demon inside the palace, and they kind of have to find it. They use Anatreya as bait, and eventually she kind of, you know, just kind of to skip ahead of things, she eventually does go on this quest, right? And I was just like, great, now she's on this quest, and that's awesome, I guess. And now we can focus on the main important things, that being the love triangle. And to me personally, you don't have to keep on forcing this thing, because making the main focus of the show now, most likely, the love triangle, I feel like that's kind of where things will lose a little interest. And not only that, but it seems like Mono Bennett may take a back seat a bit. Arnon or whatever, he may take a bit of backseat, and that may not be the best thing. But for the most part, this was a solid episode. But for the most part, it seemed like it kind of was a bit filler. But it seems like next week's episode, which will be a few weeks from now, but I'd be like, next week's episode seemed like things are starting to pick up a bit. But I enjoyed this episode, but it, just a few minor tweaking could be done. But yes, that's my review. Comment, subscribe, like, please just comment. Especially subscribe, but help me out, please. Thank you. And signing out once again.